Where would you want me to sit?
Oh, anywhere you like, really. Am I audible? Yeah, good. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are here just between the panel and the lunch, but we have a great set of panelists here on stage, and I'm sure this is going to be a thought-provoking conversation. You know, our discussion backstage was, please contradict yourselves. I don't know if they fully agreed to that, but clearly that's the plan, and you know, that's what we're going to do. So just to set the context of this conversation, and I'll begin a little bit giving an RHG, Radisson Hotel Group context. We've been 25 years in India now, and we have more than 150 owner partners. So obviously very close to their understanding of the business and their pains. And we have had, even on this session, we have Sonica here, who's been one of our longest strategic partners, two lovely hotels, one in Noida and one in Ludhiana, and a great relationship. And of course, you know, we've been through our ups and we've been through our downs, but we have still been together. And you know, there are just a lot of pain and challenges that an owner has to go through. And you know, this is what it is about. You know, so we have various stakeholders which an owner has to deal with. And actually, it so happens that almost all the stakeholders are in this room today. So I hope the stakeholders are listening to the owners' challenges who are here in the room. We have an august panel here. We have Snehdeep Aggarwal, Chairman and Founder, Bhartiya City. We have Harshavardhan Neotia, Chairman, Ambuja Neotia Group. Sonica Malhotra, Joint Managing Director, MBD Group. And Nirupa Shankar, Joint Managing Director, Brigade Group. Okay, so let's get started. And we will start with your journeys. Just in one sentence or two, walk us through your hospitality journey. And Mr. Aggarwal, we'll start with you. We just want one or two sentences.
Well, my personal hospitality journey, or the owner of a hotel, Zubin. Well, we are now a development company. So as a development company, most of the developers in India are doing hotels, right? So we thought, why not, you know? If everyone is doing hotels, we will also do hotels. But the need arose because we are doing a city here in Bangalore called Bhartiya City. And as we were doing the master plan, in this city we had to do all asset classes, from city management to residential, to an office park, a retail center, and then there was a place for hospitality. And then they said, let's do a survey whether there is a demand for hotels here. So I said to the master planner that we will do a convention center and then we will build hotels. So he said, how many? I said, we will do 3 hotels and we will create a city center. And as a city center, everywhere in the world you have hotels. So that way we have no competition, because everybody goes to a city center and then they stay in a hotel. So we are trying to do a city center, and in the city center we are going to do 3 hotels. The first one is up and running, which is the Leela brand run by the Leela Hotels. It has a large convention. We can get 5,000 people in at various levels. And we will do 2 more hotels here. And now the journey starts, and Zubin and we are discussing how we get into this space and build a vertical where we can do and dream more hotels.
Thank you. Nirupa?
Good afternoon. So with Brigade Group, we're a real estate developer based out of Bangalore. We've been in the business now 36 years. And I think the hotel business grew very organically. As Mr. Aggarwal said, we do a lot of mixed-use developments, and a lot of the hotels came as part of that. And of course, if you have a nice, cute little piece of land in heart of CBD, then it always makes sense to do a hotel. We have 8 hotels now, and we've partnered with 3 brands, IHG, Accor, and Marriott. And we are looking at developing another 5. Most of these are across South India, and I would say the hotel business has grown very organically. And yeah, it's about, maybe it contributes about 10% to our top line, so it's something that we want to keep going and keep that ratio going.
Thank you. Sonica?
Well, the journey for me in hospitality is very close to my heart because it was a training ground for me, and I think it's been a great learning ground as well. And for us as a group, because MBD has been one of the largest education companies in India, and to diversify into hotels was a very strategic move. So it was challenging, learning, and a lot of fun. And with that learning ground, I think we've been in a position to also become the joint venture partners for Steigenberger in India with the kind of excellent performance and track record we've been able to bring about on the table for both our hotels in Noida as well as in Ludhiana. So I think it's been an exciting journey. I think it's going to be a decade of more asset-light expansion because currently we've been owning all our assets. So I feel this will create a great mix of our own equity, asset-light expansion, and the rate of growth would be far more phenomenal. So that's in a nutshell what I have to say about my journey.
Thank you. Mr. Neotia.
Good afternoon. Well, my interest in hospitality came from the design side. Right from my younger days, I've been very interested in architecture and design. And while we were in real estate, one of the things that fascinated me is how to create experiences and how to build projects that would bring in the nature. So we found this property on the banks of the river near Kolkata, where we set up our first hotel, which had probably the first Radisson flag in India.
Yes, that's right.
And that was way back, I think it was 97 when we started. So that really my approach to getting into hospitality was motivated by the desire of creating beautiful buildings.
Okay, that's what I've been wondering. We have a panel here who has experience across multiple asset classes, retail, institutional, offices, residential. And I've been scratching my head a little bit because the ROIs that we have in the hospitality industry, if you compare it across the various other asset classes, may or may not be the highest. We all know that for a fact. So if I can ask, and Nirupa, we'll start with you. What attracts you to hospitality? When you have other asset classes giving you significantly higher returns sometimes. So why are you building hotels?
No, good question, because I've been defending this question for at least 14 years now. We're a public listed company, and every quarter the analysts, at least 100 analysts will ask us why you own hotels, right? Because it's the highest, amongst real estate, it's probably the most complicated asset class with the highest risk, but the lowest return also. So usually with the risk, you should get compensated for your risk with higher returns. But in hospitality, typically, and this is based on annual cash flows, I'm sure at exit, of course, I'm not looking at what your terminal cap rate and things like that is. But I think it's an annuity income asset.
Business.
So when you're doing the residential business, it's cyclical. You buy land, you build it, and you sell it, and then that's over. The project is done. But assets like office, retail, hotels, they all give you annuity income. And for us, we like to have that balance between both. Because, currently, okay, the residential market is really hot. But when it's not, it's the annuity income portfolio that actually sees you through. So we like the asset class because of the annuity income portfolio, but also because hotels have a halo effect. So for instance, if I have a mixed-use development and I put a 5-star hotel there, it premiumizes the entire property. So it premiumizes my office, it premiumizes my residential. So there's a halo effect of a hotel that you don't normally, that you can't put a value on. I can't say, okay, my office is getting 10% extra rentals because of this 5-star hotel, you know. So there's just so much of synergy when you're creating a mixed-use development, and that's why I said we've grown it very organically. Wherever it makes sense, and you have the highest and best use for a hotel asset, when you look at a piece of land, that's when we build a hotel. So every land parcel that we look at, you evaluate, hey, what is the highest and best use for this parcel of land? If it's resi, you build resi. If it's retail, you build retail, and if it's hotel, you build hotel.
Sure. So it has a halo effect on the larger development as such. It is a good annual cash flowing annuity business, but just for the sake of argument, last 3 years pre-COVID, there was zero annuity in this business. So I'm sure all of us have we're still here. So and we still believe in the business. So that's the conviction we have. Mr. Aggarwal, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the ROI versus ROI.
How, why?
ROI
Versus ROI.
versus ROI. Let me explain that to you. Before you go, I know you have the answers for this, but so the first ROI is about return on imagination, and the second ROI is return on investment. And this is actually a panel question which I would like to extend to all of you here. At what point, and all of you here have done some iconic projects, you've got into projects when really, at that point in time, nobody could visualize what you could visualize and what you could imagine. So, you've really been the first movers in that aspect. But at what point did your return on imagination become or have a business case to turn into return on investment? How was that for you? And I would like, please, everybody here to take a punt at that question.
PRS of Roy Saab कहते थे, he used to say, Snehdeep, this is a glamour business. You want to make money, don't get into the hospitality.
वही तो हम कह रहे थे अभी.
वो सब developers को बोलते थे कि आपने होटल बनाना है मेरे साथ, don't think that you will make money, right? Of course, his partners made good money. The Badal family, they made good money, and that was his. So, you take a decision. I think most of the developers, honestly, don't enter this market thinking that they are entering a business line. Like he said, we did because of the city center or the mixed use. I said because my city needed, तो मैं school में भी घुस गया, residential भी किया और hotel भी किया. But surely, there is then, if you want to expand this vertical, then there is a question. पहले तो you start, like he said, I'm design is my inspiration. So then of course it's a serious business, it's serious investments. फिर आप पूछते हो why, what occupancy? अब now आजकल मैं पूछ रहा हूँ why 60, 65, why not 103%? तो I tell Jaideep, ऐसा होटल बनाएंगे जिसमें 100% के ऊपर occupancy क्यों नहीं हो सकती है? In the morning we were discussing with Rajiv Kaul and he said, why not 100% plus? Why do we plan for 60, 65? And everybody tells me this, right? So all those questions, Zubin, आपके साथ भी बात हुई है कि why do you sell me as a brand concepts where you make me happy with 60, 65? Right? So it's a question of knowing your customer, which brand and what you are building for where, right? And how much capital you can afford to put in for how long a period. And then you must make your estimates correctly, like in any other business. ROI, of course, without that, people will sink. Families who have burnt their fingers and
Sure. Sonica, you want to take a jab at that, because you've opened hotels with us at a point which were, really it was a very futuristic view to take, and we are running some fantastic hotels. So, it was imagination to start off with, and of course the MBD group diversified into the hospitality business at that point in time, which was far ahead of what many others were doing. So how did that transformation happen? How in your case did your imagination present to you a business case which was strong enough for you to invest in this trade, and then been in the business for almost 25 years?
Well, I think for us, both return on imagination and return on investment panned out extremely well. It started with, an imagination of entering a virgin market. So I would say about 22 years, Noida, which is Delhi NCR, was considered, a not so interesting destination to enter. But I think our founder was extremely clear. He was not wanting to follow the herd. He wanted to find opportunities where there was a market gap and fulfill that with an interesting hotel opportunity. Noida didn't have a 5-star hotel that time, and it was only probably not even a 3-star hotel which existed. He saw the opportunity. He bought the land at the right price, because if it was probably in the up of the cycle, you would get land at an extremely high price. Your ROI would definitely go down. So he entered the market at a time where there was an imagination involved, entering a virgin market, bought the land at the right price. The overall financials turned out to be such that my overall investments to the kind of EBITDAs that I'm earning right now has turned out phenomenally well.
But tell me, did your investors believe in your thesis? And
the same example we did for Ludhiana, there wasn't any 5-star hotel there, and we've done extremely well there as well. So we continue to have imagination and investment work hand in hand.
So how easy or difficult is it, and this is for the investors in the room here, how easy or difficult is it for, again I'll go back to ROI versus ROI, for that imagination to translate to investment from the lending point of view or the investment point of view? What have been your experiences? Because that is a significant challenge.
Well, when you're talking about imagination culminating into return on investment, your investment horizon has to be slightly longer. It cannot be a mid-term to a short-term one, because it takes a bit of time to grow the market, develop the market, and produce the numbers. And hence, when you work backwards on that, you cannot really build up the product with a very high leverage, because it could be that if your stabilizing time is probably maybe 24 months, it could extend up to probably 3.5 years. And in that period of stabilizing, you cannot have a huge cash burn. And if your debt levels are very high, the interest can have a huge cash burn. So, which means when you're working more on imagination and more kind of newer opportunities, you'll have to work a bit higher on your internal accruals. Otherwise, you will sit on a bit of more stress than required. So that's a balance that you need to create. And eventually, after you pass the hurdle of the stabilizing year, the returns are phenomenal, right? So I think the initial 3 years are a little bit more tricky than probably in maturer or kind of mature markets.
Sure.
Or areas, yeah.
Sure.
So your strategy has to be tweaked a bit, financial strategy more so.
Sure. Mr. Neotia, your take on that?
So we need to look at hotels in two different categories. One are city hotels or town hotels, and one are leisure destinations which are in remote locations. When we look at city and town hotels, then we have most of the land has fungibility between residential, office, and as the previous speakers, both Nirupa and Mr. Aggarwal said, that in one larger development, a hotel could give a halo effect to the rest, and therefore there is an inherent viability to the project, even if the hotel is not that profitable as other parts of it. But when you come to leisure, there is no fungibility of that land if you want to do something there, because there's nothing else you can do there. There's no demand for housing or offices. Now, in those locations, imagination, I think, has a very important role to play for its success. Number one, can you spot a site which has a mesmeric view? Two, can you get a site which is with a great view but also has reasonable ease of access? Three, can you actually design a product that fits in seamlessly into that space and creates some kind of a magic of its own? Now, once you get these three different pieces right, the possibility of getting a high return on investment is quite special. And as we have seen in many leisure properties, of course, it is like using a film analogy, it's like making a Three Idiots. or it's like making Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. It has to click. But there is a possibility of you getting very good returns without having to go through the struggle that probably hotels in the cities undergo. But yes, the difficulty is getting it all these three pieces right.
Sure. So, if you were to stack all your challenges, what are the biggest challenges that you all have at this point in time? Sonica, we'll start with you. Just tell us, as an entrepreneur, as an owner, as somebody who's really invested into these business of building hotels, what are your real challenges? Because all of us stakeholders here, be it the brands, be it the investors, be it the guests, be it the employees, we all have expectations from owners. And we've at the same time know that there are a lot of challenges that the ownerships have to go through, because this is a decision where somebody has really put their money where their mouth is, first of all, and they have to live and breathe through either the consequences or the benefits of the decisions that have once upon a time been taken but will continue into eternity, i.e. either building a successful hotel or not a successful hotel, right? So please walk us through, and this is an open format question, I don't want to be leading you into one direction, but please tell us, what are your biggest challenges from an owner's point of view? What are the issues, what are the issues that need to be heard? The top three issues that you think are the biggest challenges of our business from an owner's point of view. And Sonica, will start with you, Nirupa, then go on to you.
I think some of the issues are much talked about issues, and I think we at various forums have addressed that in various capacities. One is the fact that, in terms of the rate of interest, also forget about the rate of interest. The banks are not susceptible to lending to hotels at this point of time. They think it's a very, very tricky asset class. Now, if that funnel dries up, you're probably addressing more equity. That means your ROI is further your XIRRs fall down considerably, all right? And also the expansion and growth in the industry also goes down. Now, this is a much talked about industry factor, which is going about. The land rates are very expensive to develop hotels. But I think on a more operational level, if I want to talk about, I think talent acquisition has become quite a tricky aspect, as well as talent retention. Acquisition from this point of fact that these 2 years of COVID, especially the entry-level positions think that probably it's not a very stable industry to be in because they took a lot of brunt. So to get the confidence back of getting these younger talent in your hotels and retaining them is a challenge. And also attracting the best of talent back to the hotel industry. Some of the best of hoteliers have probably moved into asset management companies, even real estate companies for that matter, because they feel that it's turned out better than others in COVID. So for me as a hotel owner as well as an operator, the other things are quite talked about in other forums, but talent acquisition and retention, I would put it at the top of the pyramid. If that's sorted out, my performance is great, revenues are great, operational efficiencies are great, and everything kind of pans out much more beautifully.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Nirupa?
Yeah, I think when I look at challenges, there are only two, right? Those you can control and those you can't. Those you can control, whether it's your people, your strategy, your product, your location, those don't bother me as much, because then that's up to you to figure out how to go about it. But I think it's the challenges that you can't control, like macroeconomic environment. Like, we don't know how long this war is going to last. We don't know what's going to happen from a macro environment. Like, okay, right now the hotels all have a good run. Like, how long is this run going to last for? Like, if there's new supply coming into the market next 3 years, will we be able to rise to that challenge? So for me, it's the macroeconomic environment at large. I mean, there are so many of them, and like COVID was a macroeconomic environment. Nobody planned for that. Nobody could, sort of inbuild that into their financials. Sorry?
It wasn't your mistake, but it was your problem.
Yeah, it's not your mistake. You didn't do anything wrong, but it happened. So for me, it's the challenges that you can't control that bother me. But actually, it shouldn't bother you because there's nothing you can do about it. But it's how can you plan for it And one of the things that you can do is not to be so over leveraged. You know, like when you build a hotel, like you were asking, I think earlier, we build and I said it contributes only 10% of our top line. Why does it not contribute 70% of our top line? Because if something goes wrong, how are you going to finance the whole thing? So we have a business like the Resi business that can support the hotel business if and when things go wrong, so that if one wing needs support, that is there. So you have to plan for it in other manners which you can control. So I would just say it's what you can control and what you can't, and how do you plan for those things that you can't.
Sure. Mr. Aggarwal, please tell us about
Neotia साहब आप करिए,
your point of view.
मेरे लिए तो हर चीज़ मेरे को आदत है. I make everything a personal challenge. तो you see, when Leela is running my hotel, what problem do I have? वो बोला आप घर पे बैठिए, sit at home, give me the hotel. So आप, if different brands are running your hotel, what is the problem? I am saying, why you have to get into the operations at all? Mr. Badal's son is the happiest, right? तो ओबरॉय साहब ने बोला आप घर पे बैठिए, sit at home, and the Trident was paid off in the first 3 years. So I am looking for an operator who lets me peacefully sit at home until I want to build my own brand. अपना ब्रांड बनाएंगे तो अपनी ऑपरेशंस करेंगे, then we have to get through all this. Of course, looking from the outside, आजकल सीख रहे हैं, you know, and we challenging Leela at times कि why this and why not. That's my only role, and I don't think I understand.
Actually, tell me one thing. I will
Otherwise,
ask you.
every business is a challenge. एक बार आप शुरू कर लेते हैं, you start once and then you start thinking how to set it right, right, हर साहब? पहले कौन सोच के spreadsheet से थोड़ी business हो सकता है, right? It's always an afterthought.
You know, tell me one thing, and this is not meant for any particular brand. I think I represent one of them. And
You told me last time, आप मुझे बोलते हो कि 400. You know, he was telling me a story last time. बोला कि why you think only 100? मैंने तो हवा में बात कर दी. I said I will do 100. He said why 100? Why not 400?
No, I said
So
500.
If
I
you
said
have
500.
So friends like you, if I follow you, can make me bankrupt, right? So I have to be
that's a
careful.
point of view.
Zubin,
We'll have a debate about this later
Don't
on.
think I'm falling in your trap so easily. So, Neotia साहब आप बताइए कौन सा बिजनेस ऐसा है जो स्प्रेडशीट से करके शुरू किया जाता है? Is there any business you start with a spreadsheet? No.
नहीं वो नहीं है, but I would definitely, in addition to the points that were mentioned earlier, there is a lot of regulatory cholesterol in our country. And as a developer, that is something where we need to fix, because it's something that takes sometimes months, sometimes years. Even getting a bar license of an operating property can take months on end. So, you know, there are many regulatory, jameen ka, iska, uska, bijli, pani, whatever. So, that's one kind of challenge that we as a country need to fix. Some states are better, some states are not so proactive, but generally I think as a country we are behind on that.
Right. So
Zubin,
let's.
there
Yeah,
is
go on.
one very systematic issue which we are foreseeing. Currently, even when you had external capital, you know, come in to India, investing in various asset classes, be it Brookfield, GIC, Brookfield, investing in hotels, it was also because there was a great degree of interest arbitrage which existed between their cost of raising funds internationally and then deploying it in India, and the return delta actually made sense for them to deploy more and more capital for this territory. Now what's happened is that now the interest rates have really hot up, be it US, UK, and that delta between their cost of capital and the XIRRs they're getting in India in the future will shrink, which means further capital. Anyways, there were very few funds which were looking at hotels as their investment opportunities. It's going to further dry up. Now that's a very systematic issue which is going to come about in the next 2 to 3 years, and which is bothering. I think it should bother most of the hotel owners as well as you know, subsequent owners in the industry. That's a big one, according to me.
But just to add here, you see, as Bhartiya, we run several businesses. You know, we manufacturing, you know, supply chain, then development. So our experience with the first hotel, but I tell you, it is one of the most organized industries in the world. We are delighted with our first hotel. When they presented us a budget, you know, Jaideep, who heads this, and between Leela, the prediction was 99% month on month. I don't know of any business. So I have to give this to the hospitality industry, that their organization in prediction of business, rooms, right, is very, very good. Now how you plan, how capital you plan, how you payback periods you plan, that must be based on a good you know, analysis. If we listen as developers and partner well with the brands, I think it's a very, very organized industry. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on a little bit from here, change track. You know, we've spoken about some financial challenges, ease of doing business, cost of capital. You know, let's talk about the future now a little bit, because I think the landscape is changing for all of us rather drastically and fast. There are new themes that are emerging. You know, talent being one of them, technology being another one. You know, from now into the future, let's say, and the future being the next 5 to 10 years, what are, beyond the challenges that we've discussed here, right? And what are the new themes emerging which are going to become very relevant from an owner's point of view? So Nirupa, do you want to take a stab at that?
See, it's every time you plan for a hotel, these are not assets that can change very rapidly, right? Once you build your building for decades. So I think every time you look at an industry and say, okay, how do I look into the future, right? There are a few things you need to ask yourself. One is, where will this industry be 10 years from now? Like, what are the behavioral patterns we can expect 10 years from now, and then try to work backwards? Or how do I stay ahead of the curve? Like, everybody is building a hotel now, especially with all the standardization. Everybody is building similar cookie cutter type business hotels. I'm talking from a business hotel standpoint. And then the third thing is, how do I use tech to stay ahead of the curve? And I feel that technology typically in the hotel space is very superficial. Like, you can't have very high-tech stuff because of the kind of customers that you have. Your customers are so diverse. Like, I think yesterday somebody was talking about, you know, how many people use QR codes for menus now. Okay, we had it for a little while, but how do you use QR codes now? Not many restaurants are using that anymore. And a lot of the COVID tech that we used in those 2 years are sort of redundant, and nobody really wants to use them. So I think for us, when we look at it and say, how do you have a product or a hotel that can withstand the test of time? It's saying, hey, how do you build most operationally efficiently, right? So for us as a builder of a hotel, you'd look at, hey, my HVAC systems, my efficiencies in the hotel, the way a guest moves in the property. And I think for us, it's more a design and development function rather than any other real tech. Because technology will keep evolving, and you can, for instance, the HVAC systems in all hotels are now changing. Before COVID, you could filter up to 2.5 microns. And now, because that COVID particle was 0.2 microns, now the filtration has moved to 0.1 microns.
Tell me, I'm sorry, I'm going to change course a little bit here. Is the changing millennial mindset a challenge?
Changing?
The changing millennial mindset, the new millennial, the young mindset, is it a challenge? Mr. Aggarwal, Nirupa, why don't you go? No, that's absolutely.
Yeah,
please go ahead, and then I would like to ask you that
So
question.
basically what I'm trying to say is that once you build a hotel, you can't really change the box that it's in. You can change a lot of the superficial stuff, like, okay, let's make this coffee shop into like a co-working kind of a place, or let's make this restaurant into more bar mode. So I think the changes that you can make are fairly superficial. So I feel that when you're building a hotel, you need to see where is this industry going 10 to 15 years from now and sort of build backwards. That's my only thing. So even if a millennial requirement changes, how much can you change? What will you change? Unless, you'll only change the way a person moves through the hotel, what he looks, feels,
But from a
touches.
job pool point of view, because from a job pool, from a talent scouting point of view, which is one of the biggest crises our industry is facing today, and if you look at how people are, the younger generation is shaping their careers, it's a very passionate generation, wants to do many things at the same time. We may not have career hoteliers, or at least not that many in the near future. There might be people who are doing hoteliering as one of the jobs, and then many other things on the same, on the same page. We have a country like India, which is poised for huge growth. We need talent, we need manpower to be running our hotels. So how is that going to balance out? And what do you think are, is a possible solution around that?
So I'll just take a stab at it. So I think when you talk about retention, you have to make hotels cool again. I mean, honestly, taking an operations job in a hotel is one of the hardest jobs to do. It's the least paid, least fun, because of the kind of, you're working when everybody else is holidaying, you have a lot of overtime. So I think if you really want to get bright sparks into the space, you need to make it sexy once again. You need to make it cool once again. You need to have multi-skilling of people. And interestingly enough, I'm poaching people from the hotel space into my office division, because the way hoteliers do sales is very hard to replicate in, say, office. In the office market, we all just sit back and wait for IPCs to bring us clients, and then we do a show around. So I said, I want hoteliers, so I'm actually looking to recruit hotel people outside of that and get them into my other business. So unless you make the hotel space really cool, something that you can learn well in, and where bright sparks are really given a great growth path and good salaries, and it's a fun place to work at, it's very hard to keep talent in the space.
Sure. Mr. Neotia, I'll come to you. I recently read an article where you were talking about the booming luxury real estate market and how this space is poised for strong growth. Considering the volatile environment that we have, or we have had in the last few years, and every 7-10 years we have a business cycle coming and going, how do you think this aspect of the real estate industry will shape up?
Real estate as it impacts hospitality? Or
Yes, of course, as it impacts hospitality, and I think we would love to hear your views generally speaking as well.
Well, people have now, post-COVID, realized that having at least one good home is very essential. I mean, therefore, there will be a continued focus on investing and upgrading your primary home. There's also been a significant interest in second homes in leisure destinations. There was always this culture of having farmhouses in the outskirts of the city, but the fact that now people are looking at Goa and some places up in the hills and Kunur and up there in Kasauli and Rishikesh and a host of other locations, to have a place where you can get away to is another area of luxury. And the third area, which is interesting development of recent times, is small is beautiful.
Small is beautiful.
And that's about boutique hotels which are experiential and which have a personalized service. And people are sometimes willing to pay much more than they are willing to pay for large hotels, particularly on the leisure side. Another area that I think will continue to grow in India, at least for the foreseeable future, is as affluence rises in our country, the need for wedding destinations. I think in India, there's a lot of investment every family makes for a wedding. It's only increasing, as I see, year to year. And as more and more people come into the affording segment, the need for having wedding sort of suitable infrastructure and hotels, I think will be very important.
Sure, thank you. Nirupa, I'll ask you, the next question. So you and your sister Pavitra are the torchbearers with Mr. J. Shankar. How has the organization seen this change with young women leadership at the helm? So, love your views, and then Sonica, she will come in with your views on that as well.
So it's a business, it's second generation business. My dad's been at the helm for the last 36 years. We took over, my sister took over as managing director last year, and I as joint managing director. It's worked, I think, really well because we all have our separate domains. We are not stepping on each other's toes. She handles the residential side of the business. I handle the annuity income portfolio, which is office, retail, hotels. So I always like to say she makes the money and I spend it, which is very in line with our personalities, so it works. It's been, the question was, how has it changed?
How is the organization?
So I think not very common to see two women in the real estate space. I think we've both worked outside the business. We both had degrees that support what we do today. So she was in real estate, she did real estate from Columbia Business School. I did hospitality from Cornell. I worked with Ernst & Young in their risk advisory practice. She worked in private equity with BlackRock. So I think we've been grooming. Like I've been in the business now 14 years and it's been an evolution, and I think people have seen us over the last decade and a half. And I think it's been a process, and now they're used to seeing us there. And I think, honestly, it's a great time to be a woman in this space, in business, because people like to see that. And I do want to say that I have a lot of my competitors, other builders who have come up to me and said, you know, it's really great to see you and your sister doing so well, bringing dynamism to the business. And it's nice. I think we've received a lot of support through this journey.
Indeed.
And people are happy, and a lot of the women in our company are happy to see us there. And I think we need to do our bit to encourage more women in the space.
Indeed, you know, we have two iron ladies on the panel. Sonica, your views on the subject?
But actually, I haven't been groomed to understand this divide between man
I
and
agree.
a woman.
They shouldn't be. They
You
shouldn't
know,
be
so for me,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to answer a question how it is being a woman in hospitality. And thankfully, you know, my parents haven't created these boundaries that this is what I can do as a woman.
You know,
and
you
this is
are the
what-
inspiration to many young women leaders. You know, the realities, you know, that affect many young, enterprising, upcoming women leaders can really be very difficult. So, you know.
Thank you. That's very humbling to hear it from you. It means a lot. Thank you. So I think the grooming has been such that we haven't really understood, you know, the difference. But, you know, when you get a few compliments, then it's definitely very encouraging and motivating. But I would say the challenge that, you know, I would have received would have not been just because I've been a woman, but as a second generation entrepreneur, a lot of, you know, team members initially think that, you know, your father who's built the business from scratch, knows it all, has done it with his own hands, and you will not be able to deliver as much, and probably you're a more spoiled kid on the block. And I think both me and my sister, within the 6 months to 1 year of our working, were able to demolish that thought process. And that thought process could have been probably stamped onto us even if I was a boy in the family, you see.
Sure.
So pardon me if I've not been able to give a very women-centric answer, but that's what it's been personally as a journey for me.
No, we've always seen you leading from the front. You know.
Thank you very much.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to change track. We go to rapid fire now. We have 6 minutes left and probably some more. I can see the screen there, so I'll have to look back, or maybe if we can flash it on this one here. So we'll take some audience questions also if time permits, but for now we'll do a quick rapid fire. And please give us your most candid answers and don't think through them. That's not allowed.
For you, both of
No,
you.
no, no, it starts from Mr. Aggarwal.
नहीं आपसे करेंगे हम आपसे start करेंगे. Okay, first question. What's your current state of mind? Buy, sell, hold, build. What's your current state of mind?
Buy, sell,
Buy, sell, build, or hold for future development?
Hold
We are talking hold for future developments means postponing your projects for the future. I'm
Hold
talking
for the
hospitality.
future?
Hold for future?
Do you want to build hotels now, buy hotels now, sell hotels now, you know, or hold your plans for the future?
Build.
Build. Nirupa.
Build and partially sell because the markets are good and valuation should be good.
Build and
You are
sell.
selling,
So,
right? Last time also you said sell, right?
Build
So
and
you are-
sell. So
I only say sell so I can build more and other people can sell the hotels.
I don't know if you're indicating that we're hitting a peak now or approaching a peak. So build and sell, that's very interesting.
So for me, for hotels, it's a hold to perpetuity kind of a model. So it's build and hold.
Build and hold.
Yeah.
So you're a keeper. You want to build and hold assets
Yes.
for the long term. Mr. Neotia?
Build.
Build?
Yes.
Okay. So we have, net speaking, we have an ownership group which wants to build 500 hotels in the country, back to your point. I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay, going back to the next question. Forecast for 2023. Mr. Neotia, we'll start with you. Optimistic, pessimistic, cautiously optimistic, anything else?
Cautiously optimistic because of the international situation. But if you look at India, optimistic.
Optimistic. India is optimistic.
Definitely optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. And what are your reasons for that, Nirupa?
Say macroeconomic.
Macroeconomic situations.
So everybody says optimistic, right? 23.
23. We go HICSA to HICSA. So next HICSA, maybe I'll ask you the same question again.
No, I think there is a lot of opportunity. 23 is going to be an optimistic year. It seems so, right?
Optimistic.
But by nature, I think we must all, if you're in business, you must every day think of the risk, right? Every day. But 23 looks like a good year.
23 looks good. Okay, so that's a good sense of optimism in the room. One biggest challenge: talent, cost of capital, regulatory approvals, ease of doing business. Which is, out of these four, the one biggest challenge that you face? We'll go with you, Sonica.
That's the most difficult choice to make.
Just choose one.
It's
One
more-
word.
It's easier to get married than, all four are challenges that you need to address.
So we'll take one each.
Okay.
All four are challenges that you need to deal with.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to pick up one.
Okay.
I look at regulatory approvals and ease of doing business as the same. So again, I put that as the challenge because not in your control fully.
Okay. Mr. Aggarwal?
Talent is always the biggest challenge.
I'm sorry?
Talent is always the biggest challenge
Talent is
in
the
any
biggest
business, in anything that you do. I feel talent is the biggest challenge.
Mr.
Yeah,
Neotia?
I agree with all of them.
Okay, we'll take that. But the next one is only one pick, and it's a slightly different one. So, who could listen to you a bit more? Who could listen to your challenges a bit more? Your operators, your lenders, your guests, your employees, or anyone else? One pick. And if it's anyone else, tell us who.
Who will listen to your challenges more?
Yes, who do you wish
You never
would listen
tell your
to you more?
challenges to your lenders, right? So,
So your answer is?
who tells your challenges to the lenders? When you go to a lender, you
Lenders.
don't tell your challenges.
Sure.
After bolte ho, everything is good, right? To the
Sure.
lender.
Sure, Nirupa?
My shrink. I'm kidding. The government.
The government, okay.
I think because I wear both the hats of being an owner as well as an operator, I think I need to listen to the challenges of the owners a bit more. And it's a time that, a lot of owners think that a lot of operators, they just take their fees out and their skin is not in the game. I think we as operators need to take a little bit more of balance sheet risk and give them a little bit of surety of what they can earn out of the hotels. I think I need to, or we need to listen more from the owner's end rather than, as an
Okay.
operator putting our
Okay.
problems in front.
Mr. Neotia?
Well, I think challenges for an entrepreneur is a very lonely space. And
That's true.
you pretty much have to live with it and resolve it very much within yourself because everyone is also facing different challenges of their own.
Okay. So I think we are almost coming to the end. I would like to do maybe just one or two last questions. I think it'll be interesting. Your take on the currently high ADR scenario. How long do you think this dream run will last?
What? Sorry, I didn't.
High ADRs.
So the current,
I think
How
there's,
long- yeah.
I'm just dreaming that the ADR will keep going up and up and up and up, right? There is space. And we were having a chat yesterday. I think people are getting used to the new normal. And there is space. So why are people paying those prices? Why were people, normal people are going and spending $1,000 for a room in a resort? Right? So people are discovering. I think this ADR, there is a lot of space to move
so
up.
6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 60 months, give us a number.
Zubin, I used to rent a room in Milan or in Paris, a good room for 200, 250 euros or whatever. And in 5 years, they have become 1,800 for a good room. And they're not stopping. So I think I'm talking of India. So I am just imagining rates will go up, right? There is space.
So
There are
you
exotic
see-
hotels. Why do I sell a Rajvilas room for 40,000 or what? That's 600 in a few euro, right? Or dollars. So why can't it be $1,000 or 1,200
Sure,
or
no,
1,500?
absolutely.
So there
So
is
I think-
space.
so you
These
are sensing-
beautiful-
so
the
you-
best hotels, travel and leisure are saying are in Udaipur, right? Every time it's Leela or Oberoi in Udaipur. So why we don't have rates here of 2,000 euros?
So you're sensing a long-term appetite for demand growth, which
Yes,
is going to
yes.
push pricing, i.e. ADRs. So that's your point of view. I think it's a great one. Nirupa?
I think at least, I mean, assuming macroeconomic environment stays the same and stable, at least 2 to 3 years, because till the next set of new supply comes into the market, I believe that we'll have some room to grow.
Sure.
No, I'm pretty optimistic if I'm evolving as per my guests' requirements and the experiences. Also, the hotels are getting upgraded. The ADRs will see an upward movement. I don't see crashing down in the near to a midterm future.
Yeah, I think it should go up.
It should go up. So good. I think that's a very optimistic note. I don't know if we have time's up, it says. I'm sorry. I don't know. Manav, if you can take some audience questions here, if we have 2 more minutes. I know there were a few. Okay. Sure. We can, if you can get a mic there, please. And if you can put the questions up on screen as well. We'll just take 2 or 3 questions, quickly.
Thank you, Zubin. Very inspired by the confidence, cautious or sometimes unbridled
If I may, if you could
optimism.
please introduce yourself as well.
My name is Joseph Britto from the Akron Hospitality Group in Goa. We run 3 small hotels. If India's inflation rate was, say, 7% last year, and growth rate was 7%, unless our investments, our assets are growing at 14% per annum, we're actually losing money. And if you ask owners, the owners who have put up the money into the investment, what their net return on their investment has been, I think outside of this self-selected group of big box, big brand hoteliers and owners, I think the answer you'll find is, despite Manav talking quite eloquently about ARRs, RevPARs rising 25%, yesterday Sajan Talwar of ELP talked about getting operators and brands to focus much more on the GOP power, the gross operating power. The real number that matters to an owner who's invested the money, tell me if you disagree, despite the cyclical nature of the business, despite the annual cash flow, is going to be the net return on the capital invested, the land cost, the construction cost, the cost of time and cost of money. And I think you'd be hard-pressed if you asked owners across the country, hand on their heart, very few of them would have made more than 4 to 5% return on their capital invested, which is comparable to a mutual fund which is at low risk after tax. And the kicker is, if you like, and tell me if you disagree, is that when you come to sell assets, and I know Nirupa talked about building and selling, when you come to sell assets, you very rarely get the replacement value of the asset. Most investors look at the discounted cash flow, they look at the net present value, and the cash flows discounted over the next 10 years. More of a comment than a question.
Is your question about the limited ROCEs in the business, or what? From an individual versus an institutional owner perspective, what is the specific question?
Fundamentally, my question is, and I'm sorry it's been discursive, but fundamentally it's about getting brands and operators to focus much more on the GOP power and to tie their performance to this metric. But also, when it comes to selling an asset, very rarely does the owner, investor get the replacement value of the asset. You're much more likely to get the net present value of the asset, which is the discounted cash flow, rather than the capital invested, time, cost of money.
So what is your specific question? Sorry, what's?
I'm sorry, which part of that you didn't understand?
No, I think.
Nirupa, have a go at it.
Yeah, okay, take a stab at it. Nirupa wants to go.
So if I understand right, so the thing is that I think that's why there are such few transactions that happen in the hotel industry, right? And that's why if you look at it from if you look at the number of hotels that are being transacted through a private equity fund, it's very few. And that's why builders, large portfolio owners are going to the IPO market, because the public markets will give you a larger premium or a higher premium than what a fund will give you. So it really depends. And the number of transactions in the hospitality space is few because of what you said. Owners hardly ever get their replacement value. That said, while again, I've been defending the hotel industry for the last 14 years as to why we invest in it. And while on average, the returns that the hotel industry get is around 8%. Okay, on better hotels do some 12%, some get 20%. I'm not saying we've had hotels that have a payback of 25% and we've gotten our payback in 4 years, but I'm talking about the industry average. The thing that all of us miss is, if you own the hotel, there's the underlying asset value of the land. The land appreciates by 5%. So if you add your annuity, your cash flow, say 5%, and another 5% increase in the appreciation in the land value, it's around 10% actually. So definitely better than what the lending rates are. So that's how we justify it. And like I said, the number of transactions that happen in the market are very few and far between, because what a buyer wants is based on your cash flows, and what an owner wants is based on your land value, plus the market value of land, plus all your expenses, and plus your opportunity cost. So hence, all of us go to the public markets, and that's why so many IPOs are happening in the market.
Okay, lovely, thank you. I think, great answer, Nirupa. One last question I'll take from here, and then that's it. It's a one-word answer for all the panelists. If you were to start your own hotel brand, what would you call it and why?
What? Sorry?
If you were to start your own hotel brand, what would you call it?
MBD Express.
Good. Okay. Yourself?
Don't know.
Don't know. Okay.
Don't know the name yet. Something very deshi, because I would love to have a hotel brand that is 100% made in India.
You see, I'm imagining how can I take the first name of all my 4 grandchildren and can spin a name. If anybody can help me, I will do that.
Oh, that's lovely.
Lovely. Great. I think it was a great conversation. I would like to thank the panelists. I'd like to thank the audience. We've crept into the lunch hour, but I think it was a great conversation, and it could have gone on, I think, easily for another few minutes. But thank you, everyone. Have a great conference. Thank you, panelists. Enjoy. Thank you.